I want to explain the components that are part of the user interface Revit Architecture 2011. On the top left you have the application menu. Under this menu you have commands that are common to many different products. It doesn't really matter what you're using, if it were Inventor, Civil 3D, AutoCAD, 3D Studio Max. Under the application menu you'll find pretty much the same commands, the same options. And the goal is interoperability. If you know where it is in one product, you'll find the same option in another product in the same location. Beside the application menu is the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar is actually a way of letting you customize a selection of tools so that they're quickly accessible. The idea here would be that even when you're using this other feature on the interface called the ribbon, and you use the ribbon to kind of pick on a tab like structure, and then find the command grouped in a panel that has a name where everything related to, say, foundation is grouped in one identifiable location. If I thought I was going to use this a lot, what I would do is right click on it and say add to Quick Access Toolbar. Because then when I'm on my home menu, I can have the 20% of commands up here that do 80% of the work that I want to do in Revit Architecture, and then the additional ones that I need available to me without me drilling down through the menu to find out where they are. So just to kind of repeat that, if I do a lot of editing of materials, I could go Manage, go to the Materials option, right click and say Add to the Quick Access menu. Now if I'm back on the Home tab, I have all of these useful commands, but I have the other ones that I know that I want to use at some point. Having said that, if you've used the product for a while, you'll find out that if you have one of anything in a drawing, say for example when I hover over this, it helpfully tells me what it is, the wall style. If I select it and I right click, you see that I can say create similar. So I can go in and start drafting any wall, door, window, grid, piece of furniture, text, annotation, anything by just selecting it, right clicking and saying create me a similar object. That's a huge time saver, and it means I don't even have to drill down through here to find stuff. The other option is that I'll point out on this is the context menu that I find so useful, is that I can do things like say select all instances of that wall that are visible in the view or the entire project and grab them all. You see it found 5 of them, and then I could go and make changes. So I can globally make changes in my project just through being able to select multiple identifiable objects at the same time and then making a change. Huge. Beside the Quick Access Toolbar, I just want to point out to you under the what's called the Info Center, is that I can click on this and find the Revit Help. So it's going to bring up the help page to go through that documentation. I'm going to kill that. I'm also just going to point out to you that if I drill down a little bit on here, you can go to videos. I won't bother clicking on it, but you can get documentation to help you understand how to use the product from within the product. The properties palette more typically comes up stacked above the what's called the project browser. I've moved it across here just because it's more easy when it comes to me laying out my screen for recording. But you'll see how customizable the interface is. For example, I can drag off these palettes individually, or I can put them back if I want to. And you saw me change the Quick Access Toolbar, but I can collapse or I can move these things and have them floating or park them at the side to work, whichever way is convenient. So these two palettes are extremely useful to me. The single concept that you have to leave here with is that BIM involves having one database, not separate drawings. and a change in one place means that you're making the change every place. So if I were to delete that wall, it's gone from schedules, it's gone from the elevation, it's gone from whatever. So if I just show you that the project navigator here, the project browser, what am I saying? Project browser. It's a Freudian slip. I used to work in a different product. The project browser here, you can see I can expand or contract the tree structure. And the way I move through my model is to just click on the level that I want to, the view that I want to look at. Think of these as having multiple cameras that display the data from the single BIM database in a particular way. For example, under 3D, if I click on 3D view, that's exactly the same as me clicking this up here. It's taking me to the same location. But you know, I can make camera views in my project so I can move around quickly from one thing to another. If, for example, I'm going to close this down, I want you to go to, say, the south elevation or the east elevation. I just draft my 3D model. I don't draw separate drawings of floor plan, section, elevation. They're all created from the database. We'll do this as we get into our project. I also want to point out that there's a rendering engine as part of Revit Architecture. So if you want, you can create and save photorealistic views of your project to ease communication with clients or other professionals that you're working with. You know, a goal in BIM is to have that integration in design, integrated project delivery. Also, a view is just one way of depicting the data, so you'll see that it has legends and schedules as listed under the views available to you. We'll do a little bit more of that as we actually start to work on our project. Last thing that I want to, so where do I want to work is you pick on the view that you want to work. What do I want to do? You right click on the object that you want to draft with and say create similar. And then the last point that I want to make is the properties, which is what building information modeling is all about, are always displayed on the properties palette. So if I pick a wall or multiple walls up here, it'll tell me, if I just scroll in so you can see it, you see the blue dots, what it's saying is that the location line is that wall was placed according to its center line. The bottom of the wall is on level 1, which is a horizontal plane running through the building, and this is it here, floor plan level 1. And it goes all the way to the top, which is up to the top of the wall, that is, goes all the way up to level 2, which is also another plane that runs through the model. So these are called datum elements, these levels. I can cover this as we get into a different movie about using levels when we work on a project. So what I want to do here is I want to show you the last couple of things on the interface. I'd have you go to the 3D view, and I'm going to show that on the mouse, which is literally all that I need to control my views, I can use the shift key and the center mouse and drag to turn my model any way that I want. I can hold the center button down and drag to do panning, and I can roll the mouse wheel forward or backwards to zoom in. Now you can use these features like the view cube, because these are common to all the products as well, and maybe you want to do something like spin it around on the compass there and maintain, you know, its verticality, or use navigate. But these tend to be they're common to the different products, but when you know the three options in Revit to drag, to zoom, and to hold the shift key and orbit, then probably use that most of the time. The point that I want to make on the bottom here, let me just turn this so I can see it a little bit better. In fact, I'm going to close these off so I can see this in a bit more detail, is that the visibility options down here have to do with I can change the scale of drawings, typically orthogonal drawings like floor plans or ceiling plans, and I don't have to worry about resizing text height or symbols because they automatically change according to whichever scale I want to plot at. I can look at here the level of detail This is really more applicable to a floor plan, but I can choose, for example, do I just want to see the exterior faces of the walls, or do I want to see the materials within the walls? That level of detail is how much information about the component should I be showing on screen. Right beside it is the depiction for really shading. Wireframe, I'm looking all the way through the model. Shaded, I'm looking at the color of the materials. A new addition is realistic, where I can now actually see the bitmap images of the materials that are part of my walls. And this avoids me having to render them so I can see materials. I can actually kind of verify that I have the materials without having to do a render. The default is usually this hidden line option. I'm going to stick with that for the moment. These other ones I'll explain as we work on a project, but I want to point this one out at the moment. The option here with the spectacles, you see it says temporary hide isolate. It means, by the temporary, it means screen display only. This is not something that the product remembers. So this is not something used for plotting. This is simply a way of being able to turn information on and off. So if I pick the roof and I go down and I say hide that element, I'm turning the roof off. If I say pick a wall, I can do this in any view, and I go down here and I say hide the category. The category as opposed to the element means hide all of the walls, so I can see through my model. So this is a way of temporarily reducing the clutter that's on your screen, and when I do that and say reset, I get it all back. But don't confuse it with the option which is to type in VG. Revit keeps track of your building components, not by objects on layers, but the actual building component is what you can decide. You know, I don't want to see the doors, or I do. I don't want to see the furniture, or I do. And that's what you use when you're actually thinking about plotting. Although there are ways to do this in a manner that lets you apply it to all, say, floor plans than doing them one at a time. But I won't get into that as we work on just the basic concepts of Revit. I'm going to, because people frequently turn off items, I'm just going to finish with this last couple of points. If I go View and I go User Interface, that's how I can turn these things back on again. So my properties put like that. And the last point was that you get helpful tips down here, instructions or prompts as you draft. So for example, if I went to say floor plan 1 and I'm picking my command that I want to draft with, and I say okay, then create me a similar wall, you notice that down here it'll tell me what it wants me to do. Click to enter the start point, and then it instructs me as to what's happening on the screen and what I should do to finish drawing my wall. I'm just going to hit escape to get out of anything that you're doing in Revit. I have one last item, and it's probably the thing that throws most people. You'll notice that when I pick a command to draft with, I get here the options property bar. You need like a third eye that's always up here, because what this is doing is saying that I'm placing the wall and I have these options available to me. How am I going to place it? Should I place a multiple string, or should I place them some different distance from the points? Keep an eye on this, because the information up here changes depending on which command you're using. But it's a very, very useful prompt, because it contains options as you draft. Let me leave it at that, and we'll continue by looking at the other environments that are inside Revit Architecture.